welcome onto the stage Jason Bryant, who comes straight to us from Silicon Valley, and he is the CEO and founder of Nor1. They are one of the world's leaders in technology for upsell solutions within hospitality. So Jason, in a few words, what does our connected customer mean to you?
So when I think of the connected customer, I think of something Nancy mentioned in her presentation earlier today, which is there's a new normal. For me, I think that we intuitively feel this and believe this, but every single customer is connected. Right? Gone are the days where there was a digital strategy, right, or a online strategy for that guest or that, that individual consumer, and then another strategy for, a different, touch point. My mom's 85. She clearly is far more sophisticated than I am with online banking and shopping, consuming her news and her music and keeping in touch with her friends. And you might think that's an exception, but I know her social circle, it's not an exception. So I just think one is just we need to, sort of like the new normal is every single consumer and guest, they are connected. And we need to build that into our strategies.
Great. And you guys look after millions of customers. So what do we need to do? What technology do you think is necessary for us to continue looking after our connected customers in a large-scale format?
So I think there's three things. I think in Nor1, we always, when we're building our products, there's really three fundamental silos that we're trying to address. So one is, clearly guest engagement technology. Making sure we have the technology that, you have the channel, the conduit to the guest, whether it's SMS or, a mobile app or right there at check-in at the front desk or, some other web-based connectivity. Two is integrations. As we all know, unfortunately, one of the reasons why I think hospitality lags and has a hard time keeping pace is just like, there's a lot of integrations and they can be problematic. But in order to serve a connected guest, you clearly have to have real-time two-way connectivity to numbers of data sets. And then finally is some sort of sophisticated intelligence layer. Right? It's one thing to have connectivity with the guest, and it's one thing, right, to have access to, let's say, inventory or to data real-time or these data sets real-time. It's another of like, well, what do we do with it, right? What's the right, whether it's communication or an offer or some pricing component, you have to have some sophisticated intelligence to do that.
And in the age of, and I'm not even going to use 24/7, it's more the swipe generation and that we were talking about earlier and the 5-second on-demand generation. So how should we as commercial teams adapt our approach so that we can connect with all of these customers at the right time, in the right way, and using sort of Nancy's phrase on the CEX, talking about customer experience and customer expectation?
Well, assuming you have that technology, right? So assuming, which is, I get it, the industry is maturing, but assuming you have these three components with guest engagement and integrations and intelligence, I think what teams need to start to do is focus on coherency, right? There's a lot of offers and a lot of communications. It's obvious what they should be, right? And then you need to build a coherent strategy of how you engage the guest throughout the reservation life cycle. And it's not just this, one size fits all. Right, that there's always going to be this upsell at this point, and it's always the same price, or it's the same type of upsell, or same communication. Right, you need to understand that there's a choreography, a natural choreography that we need to start to think about.
So, bearing all of this in mind, what do you think will have the largest impact on revenue management and the connected customer over the next year and the years ahead?
Yeah, I think, on one of the earlier presentations, there was this list of industries, right? And as I sat and looked through those, I think what's going to have the biggest impact on all of them is machine learning. It's already impacting large-scale enterprise, has a large-scale enterprise impact on a lot of industries. And for me in revenue management, it's going to be no different. Especially when you think about the connected guests, right? You need to have real-time transactions, real-time decisions happening. Most machine learning systems can do that. You need to have some level of personalization. And so with machine learning, at least what we're doing is essentially micro-segmenting, right, is to create these small correlated groups of guests, and then understanding, what do you offer each of those guests, and then finally is that system is ongoing. It's being an ongoing optimization. I mean, it's learning, right? It's machine learning, and so it's built, in my opinion, it's built to handle changing guest preferences and intent. It inherently will recognize those things very quickly. So machine learning,
and not forgetting the human interaction.
Absolutely.
And so there's been a huge media coverage on both AI and ML, machine learning. So just for the audience as well, help us to understand the exact difference between the two.
Sure, actually, really good question. Actually, I get asked this fairly often, but so AI, right, artificial intelligence, the term's been around since the 1950s. I think when it was originally coined, there was an intent not to associate it directly with computers, although that has been the sort of, the way that we think about it more modernly. It was basically any sort of artificial decisioning system, right, that took the place of a human making a decision. And so it's a very broad, like this really broad umbrella term. So machine learning is a part of that. Machine learning is artificial intelligence. I'm sure you're aware, machine learning is a statistical numerical approach that essentially is trying to create correlations. And then based on those correlations, you're making decisions out of that. And then it continues to have feedback. It continues to have data going into it to keep making those correlations better. And so one of the artificial intelligence, let's say, products that's gaining a lot of, let's say, awareness, right, is self-driving cars. So yes, artificial intelligence, yes, machine learning, but it actually has another term which you'll hear is deep learning, and that's just it's a deeper subset of machine learning. It's just a very complicated, sophisticated approach to machine learning.
And with these both being such hot topics, don't you think, or maybe do you think us as hoteliers might lose at risk, of losing touch with our guests and the opportunity to create those differentiated experiences, risk maybe over personalization, over connecting?
Yeah, I mean, machine learning is a tool, right? So clearly it can be used non-optimally. Clearly it can be used in ways that don't support your strategic objectives. And so I think that, but again, as I just mentioned, a machine learning approach inherently allows you, and it itself is going to be tracking these differences in guests, like differences in their intent, differences in their response to different products. It will change and make offer sets and communications much faster than a human could recognize those differences. So that's built in. Secondly, I also think that when you build these systems, and at least what we're doing is you have to respect that. So unlike Amazon, right? I mean, Amazon is sort of given the title of the leader in a lot of this space, and they are, right? But it's an inherently a digital experience, Amazon is. Whereas hotels, of course, are not, again, it's a human service delivery component to it. And so you have to build that in, right? That has to be integrated in. It's not solely this machine learning approach. You have to find ways to use the machine learning or that intelligence to empower, let's say right at the front desk, to empower those agents at the front desk, right? Because they're going to play a big role in, again, serving the guest in a sort of in a personalized way.
And then moving forward, I suppose, how do you think the machine learning will actually change the responsibilities of today's revenue management teams, and how can we make it low effort for our customers?
Yeah, there's a reality here. Like what machine learning is good at, and what let's say computer-oriented decision making is good at, tactics. Computers are really, really good at tactics. They're really good in bringing in big sets of data, and then applying some algorithmic approach very fast to come up with a really tactical decision. Humans will never be able to do a lot of what the computer is doing, right? What the computer doesn't do, at least yet, it's not good at strategy. It's not really built to create strategy. And so when I think of those like that's just like this fundamental, that it's good at tactics, not good at strategy. That's where revenue managers or the revenue management's going to get impacted. A lot of the tactics, the things where they're spending a lot of time on tactics, bringing data in and interpreting the data and doing all those things, that's going to get done by a machine. Strategy, they still need to play, and hopefully they have more time now to be strategic and to really analyze their objectives and to actually learn how do you apply the machine learning in a strategic way. So that's how I see this sort of shifting from tactics into strategy.
And just a couple of quick last questions. So for the last 15 years, obviously Nor1 has been really focused on upselling and helping hoteliers increase the value of the reservation. How has this evolved?
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing evolution, and I think this is a good, the topic of conversation here is related to it, which is, so when we first started, upselling was an afterthought, just an add-on. It was just, hey, yeah, if we can eke out another, few dollars out of each transaction, awesome, right? Whereas now what we're starting to see happen and what we believe should happen and what we're building our technology to do is, whether you call it, retailing or merchandising or upselling, it should be a key component to any broad revenue strategy, right? I mean, not only just from the revenue perspective, but also it's just inherently a way to create guest satisfaction, because it's the moment in those reservation life cycles where you can start to, say, personalize. You can start to give very specific offers. And so we see it being a much bigger part of an overall revenue strategy than in the past.
And then really just, I suppose, advice for audience to say, right, okay, and what do you think that we should do to be ready for our customers of the 2030 era, and what do we need to do to be ready for that?
Yeah, I think just be good at students, right? There's a ton of material out there in the trade journals, a ton of information out there in sort of about our competitors. I mean, there's just a lot of information. And I just think that we need to be students of the technology and of the industry, right? The domain that we're in. And specifically, like as far as like, where is digital commerce going? Yeah, for right now, follow Amazon. I mean, that's their world. I mean, they invest hundreds of millions of dollars in this. And whether it's right or wrong, that's what's shaping our guests, right? Their experiences with Amazon and online buying and Netflix, that's what's shaping their expectations and what is normal for them. And so we should pay pretty close attention to what those online retailers are doing, because it's going to be impacting our guests.
And Jason, as we wrap up, you've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years. Any advice for any budding entrepreneurs in the audience?
I think it depends on when you ask me. Lots of times it'll be, yeah, don't do this. No, you know what? I think that fundamentally what entrepreneurs do is find opportunity. Right? They see something, and usually it starts like this. Hey, there must be a better way to do this thing, right? And even sometimes you don't know exactly how to do it. I know lots of times I haven't known, well, how are we going to do that? But I felt like there's got to be a better way. And if you're passionate about it, realize that there's never the perfect time. There's never there's never enough money. You're never smart enough. The stars never quite align. If you really think that there's an opportunity and you can do something better, I wholly advocate do it. I've spent my entire life doing this, so yeah, I would advocate that anybody do it if you have that passion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.